Newton came up with the theory of gravity instantly. When an apple fell from a tree and hit him on the head, actually, Newton saw an apple falling from a tree, and it got him to thinking about the mysterious force that pulls object to the ground. And for the number 2 is that food processing. So food processing history is that dates back to the prehistoric ages, when crude processing incorporated fermenting, sun-drying, preserving with salt, and various types of cooking such as roasting, smoking, steaming, and oven baking. Such basic food processing involved chemical and enzymatic changes to the basic structure of food in its natural form. As well, served to build a barrier against surface microbial activity that cause rapid decay.
Telescope was invented in 1608 in Netherlands by an eyeglass maker named Hans Lippershey. In 1611, Galileo designed a telescope for astronomy. The telescope navigate and show us the world. Telescope give us an understanding of what we can see in space, and it give us a clear view to clarify the space, things, and even maintains and see. Microscope. The microscope was invented by Dutch people named Hans and Zacharias Janssen in 1667. With the invention of the microscope, it allowed us to see the tiniest part of the world that we can see with our own eyes. Example of that is our cells, the small living organisms, and the bacteria.
The invention of internet was the work of dozens of pioneering scientists, programmers, and engineers who each developed new features and technologies that eventually merged to become the information superhighway we know today. The first workable prototype of the internet came in the late 1960s with the creation of ARPANET, or the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, that was originally funded by the U.S. Department of Defense. Also, ARPANET used packet switching to allow multiple computers to communicate on a single network. The technology continued to grow in the 1970s after scientists Robert Kahn and Vinton Cerf developed Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol, or TCP/IP, a communications model that set standards for how data could be transmitted between multiple networks. ARPANET adopted TCP/IP on January 1, 1983, and from there, researchers began to assemble the network of networks that became the modern Internet. The online world then took on a more recognizable form in 1990 when computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. In 1973, Martin Cooper changed the world, although he didn't know it yet. Cooper and his team at Motorola, the communications company, created maybe the only thing that runs the lives of business professionals and teenagers alike, the cell phone. It was the size of a brick and wasn't commercially sold for another decade. But as Cooper demonstrated on a New York sidewalk, it worked. The concept of cellular technology had already been created by Motorola's rival, AT&T, whose Bell Labs introduced a system allowing calls to be moved from one cell to another while remaining on the same channel. But AT&T was focusing this technology on the car phone. Cooper wanted people to have freedom to talk on the phone away from their cars. So, in reaction, he and Motorola embarked on a project to create a more portable device.
Radio has been useful in our lives for our communication, getting some information like news or listening to music. The question is, who discovered the radio? In radio invention, the story is kind of complicated because some people say that the Italian Guglielmo Marconi is not the person who discovered the radio. And people argue that Nikola Tesla is the person who invented the radio. But Guglielmo Marconi gets the credit because Marconi is the first person who sent a transatlantic radio message, and he won the 1909 Nobel Prize because of his invention. For the question number 2, how this invention be more developed and grow? For me, maybe building more towers for radio channels to give access to those areas not getting much frequency. and I can promote this invention to a sustainable living because through the radio we can get information like news, and especially during calamities, radio is the best way to get information. The second invention, guns. How guns was invented or discovered. Before metal guns or rapid firearms was invented, the original idea of gun it was in mainland China, where the gunpowder was first created in 19th century. Alchemists blended charcoal, saltpeter, and sulfur into a powder called Hu Yao, which was used to treat skin infection. Armies quickly learned the powder could be used in bombs, mines, and other weapons, until the gunpowder was transported to Europe in 13th century, like over the Silk Road trade routes through Central Asia. So how this invention will be more developed and grow? Firearms is advanced and more powerful. Maybe they can develop a reusable gun ammo or a bullet, because war is the most expensive things on earth. Every country gave allotted budget for this, especially in a bullet. And how this invention becomes sustainable for a living? Because gun can give protection, especially nowadays every country protect their territory. So if the country has this kind of weapons, they can protect their people and their country, also their territory.